Welcome to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. In each episode, we're going to bring you insightful interviews and discussions with top restoration industry leaders. We're also going to delve into their business, the strategies that made them successful, and most importantly, the valuable lessons they've learned along the way. I'm your host, Clinton James. I'm also the Chief Marketing Officer at Water Restoration Market. We're a digital marketing agency dedicated to helping restoration companies nationwide secure more high-value water jobs. Now, this show, it aims to provide you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the restoration industry. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, folks, and welcome to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. I am your host, Clinton James, and this is sponsored by my agency, Water Restoration Marketing. Today, I'm joined by Scott Whittaker. Scott is the owner of Restoration One in Spokane. Scott, thanks for joining us today.
You bet.
All right. So full transparency, Scott has been a client of my agency for the last 3 years. Worked together to generate some leads for his business. Scott, before we get too far into some of the topics we're going to cover today, tell our audience a little bit about yourself and specifically how you got into the restoration industry, because you got a little bit of a unique story.
Sure. I started actually in the carpet cleaning industry down in Las Vegas. As a young man in high school, getting out of high school, I actually started cleaning casino carpets for a company named Dynamic Carpet, and worked with my brother-in-law, actually, me and him in a van. And we cleaned about 100,000 square feet of carpet a week. And we had 2 casinos that we cleaned their floors from midnight to 8 a.m. every night. And quite an experience, people gambling and not moving, just clean right around them, you know. And I didn't disenjoy it. I enjoyed it and wanted to know more, and got out of that industry after doing it for a while, and ended up in the automotive industry for 9 years. During that time, I opened up a carpet cleaning business of my own. And then from there, I didn't want to stay in Las Vegas and raise kids in Las Vegas. So
Wait. You didn't want to raise children in Sin City?
I wanted to change. I was in Las Vegas from 87 to 2007 when I left, but I started looking outside of Las Vegas in 2004. And I tested for a few different fire departments. I actually got hired in Spokane Valley, Washington. Moved my family from Las Vegas to Spokane Valley, Washington in February of 2007. And then I sold my carpet cleaning business in Las Vegas prior to that.
Yeah.
And then I was on probation in the fire department for a year. And literally the day after I got on probation, I signed 3 contracts. Kind of a weird story, but I didn't even have a van or a business name yet. And my wife was going to go back to work because we were broke as a joke. And I said, hang on, let me just see if I can go get some contracts for carpet cleaning. And first day I went out, we signed 3 contracts for carpet cleaning. I didn't have a van, didn't have a business name. And all 3 of the companies that I went to, they're like, well, and they knew the story. I told them I don't have this stuff yet, but I know I can help you, and this is what we can do for you. And they're like, you go get your contract, get your business name, come back, we'll sign with you. And so within the next week, I did everything I needed to do, ordered a van, got everything done. And within 30 days, we were up and running. And we had those 3 contracts. We had them for the full 10 years that we owned that business.
Very nice.
Sold it in 2018. Like I said, I was on the fire department, had that business running. It had 5 employees doing commercial carpet cleaning mainly, and then some residential every now and then. And then we got into the restoration side of things in 2017. And so 2017 was a very busy year for me. I was on the fire department still full-time as a captain. I had the carpet cleaning business with 5 employees, and then I had the restoration business that went 0 to 1,000 real quick. So we sold the carpet cleaning business in October of 2018.
Okay.
Kept the restoration side. And then I retired in 2021 from Spokane Valley Fire Department.
I know you were with the fire department when we started working together, because we had our first couple strategy sessions and you kept getting pulled away for fires, which was kind of interesting for me. In terms of the process, because obviously you had experience in carpet cleaning, and then you go and work for the fire department. So restoration isn't too far outside. It's actually kind of a meld of the two there. But when you were considering starting a restoration business, did you look at maybe just hanging your own shingle, or was it always the franchisee path that you considered?
No, I looked at independent. I mean, I had two carpet cleaning businesses during this, within the last 15 years that were independent.
Okay.
And so I looked at that route, and being that I really didn't understand the insurance side of things, and there was a lot of unknowns in the insurance world and the restoration side of things, that I thought, let's look at the franchise side of this and see if they put the pieces together.
Okay.
And it sure seemed like they did. Hindsight's always 20/20, right? You look back, you're like, man, I could have done this on my own. And six one, half dozen the other. Like, could you have done it on your own? Yes. Could you have done it as fast on your own? I don't know. And so, do I have any regrets of going with Restoration One? I don't.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because now that we've been working together for the last few years, I have gotten some referral business as a result of you. So I certainly appreciate that with my agency. A lot of the Restoration One franchise owners, they're very passionate about R1 and kind of the organization there. Did you consider any of the other franchisee models, PuraClean, 1-800 Water Damage, the Belfour folks, even Serve Pro, Service Master? Was that a consideration for you?
I actually looked at 911 Restoration, Paul Davis, and PuraClean. Those were the three besides R1 that I did look at. And,
what made you ultimately settle on Restoration One?
Restoration One kind of is its own little world. They didn't do program work. We still don't do program work. The corporate side of it doesn't dictate what jobs you need to do and how to do them.
Okay.
Kind of an independent franchise. Like it's you have the freedom. You have the freedom to do your own thing, and that appealed to me as somebody that has ran businesses prior, and I don't need somebody holding my hand and babysitting me. That appealed to me, that, hey, there's a national name here. They're doing all the branding for you. You don't have to worry about the branding. And I was like, all right, well, let's take a look at this. And the more I talked to them, and the more I realized we could probably be a fit, because although I like some structure and some guidelines, I don't want my hand held every day until I don't want to be told you have to do this job and you have to take this discount. That doesn't work for me.
Now, did they help? You mentioned that the insurance claim process, right? Working with homeowners and business owners through the insurance claim process, that wasn't a thing that you brought to the table when you looked to get into restoration. So did Restoration One have a pretty good infrastructure in helping you kind of get through that learning curve?
Yes and no. When I got into Restoration One, they were still babies. I was franchise 131, my initial franchise was.
And they're over 300, 400 plus at this point, aren't they?
I think so. Yeah, I'm not positive, but they have franchise consultants that these FCs are pretty knowledgeable. They've been around. My guys, I've been with me for a long time now, and he worked at some pretty large companies for a long period of time, and he's very knowledgeable in a lot of different aspects of things. And so in the beginning of it, he was very helpful to have these phone conversations. But in the franchise world, you also have other franchisees. And that is really where I found a huge amount of value. And I was able to make phone calls to, there's an owner in Portland, his name's Ty Hines. And then Ty's brilliant, like when it comes to the business side of things. And I owe a lot of my success to Ty Hines, and how he operated is we mirrored his operation in the very beginning of this thing. It took off. So, you don't just have the franchisor to look at. you have the franchisees, you have this huge network. And if you lean on the network, it works.
Yeah, I know you guys have a pretty active Facebook group for your franchise owners.
We do, and
I've gotten a little bit of love in that franchise Facebook group. So
yeah, you don't have that as an independent, right? I mean, independents have Facebook groups out there, but no one's gonna divulge the type of information that gets divulged in a franchisee group because we're not competing with each other, right? So we don't keep our chips close. We actually say this is what's working and this is how it's working, and you're not going to get that from a lot of independents that are. I mean, they're just not going to divulge their trade secrets.
Well, a lot is working right for you over the last couple of years. Can you talk a little bit about the revenue growth that you've seen over the last, let's say, 3 or 4 years?
Sure. We started in September of, oh man, we're coming up on my 6-year mark right now. September 11th of 2017 was our first day.
Okay.
And our first full 12 months, our first fiscal 12 months from January to December of 2018, we did $1,070,000 our first 12 months.
That's awesome for the first year.
And then the second, so 2019 fiscal year, we did $3.4 million.
Go.
2020, we did 4.7, and we opened up another territory during that time. And in February of 2020, we opened up Restoration 1 of Central Washington, which is about 2 hours and 45 minutes, 169 miles from here. It's west of us towards Seattle. And it's a small community, about 60,000 residents within the city limits. And then there's the county around it. Vacation homes around Lake Chelan and Lake Wenatchee. And we opened it in February of 2020, though, and hindsight's 2020, right? I mean, COVID hit.
I didn't know it was right around the corner for you.
No, we did not know what was coming. So very interesting. We still did all right. We did $615,000 in 2020 from that territory.
Yeah.
And then in 21, we did
Go ahead.
815, I think.
Okay.
And then last year we did 1.2 million from that territory. And then in 21 in Spokane, we did 6.3. And then 22 together, the two of them together did 9.1.
Where does that rank you among other franchisees in the Restoration One?
We sat number 1 last year for revenue. I don't know where I think in 22 in 21, I think we were second.
I was going to say, you don't have a ticker built into your CRM so that every day you actually see where you rank versus the other franchisees?
I got to tell you, looking at what other franchisees do, it drove me, and it still does a little bit, but I think there's some people that chase that a little bit too much, and it kind of consumes their day. I have personal goals, and once I set those personal goals, it doesn't matter what other franchisees do, right? I hope they all crush it. I hope.
You've experienced phenomenal growth since you started there. Now, I know you use our service, obviously, to do some paid ads on Google for you. You work with a bunch of other lead generation services, and you've got kind of your own strategy. I don't expect you to share the secret sauce, but can you talk a little bit about what's worked well for you and maybe what hasn't worked so well for you thus far?
What's worked well? We do good on internet marketing. We do really good on relationships that we have locally with a lot of different types of leads. What we don't work well on is, believe it or not, is insurance companies. And I'll say that out loud, and I'm proud to say that I believe insurance companies take advantage of customers. I believe that they want to dictate pricing. They want to dictate how things happen. They don't hold the liability, yet they're going to tell me how to do a job, and it doesn't match the standards. And so we step up, and of course, when we're the one that says, hey, the standard says this and you don't want to do this, and you're unwilling to pay for the standard, we're the black sheep, and then we're the company that the adjusters and everyone else comes at, and also goes to the customer and tells them that they're not going to pay our bill. And it's pretty a rotten industry from an insurance standpoint.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. A lot of the newer restoration companies that I work with, they're eagerly trying to get onto preferred vendor lists and do program work. The folks that have been in the industry for extended period of time,
They're trying to exit.
distance themselves. Program work and lease work, right? It's literally the least profitable work you can do in restoration. So,
I see the value in it, right? So I'll never say what's right and what's wrong. I don't have that answer for each individual business. I think each business should set what's right and wrong for their business and how their model works. My business model doesn't work that way for a lot of various reasons. It's very simple to me, Clinton. If an adjuster, if you had a loss in your house, let's say it's a fire, just for fun. You got a fire in your house, and we come in and we say, hey, we're going to do this, 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 and this based on historical data that we know this is what's going to clear the house of carcinogens, dioxins, anything that's deadly and dangerous to you and your family. This is how we're going to mitigate that loss. The adjuster comes in and goes, no, I don't see it that way. Right? And my answer to them in one question is, are you willing to hold liability on the structure? Are you willing to sign this saying that when the smell comes back or somebody gets sick in this structure, you're going to take the liability? Their answer is always no. They will never hold liability, but they're still going to dictate to me how to clean it. And so we've mitigated that now with, when we have that conversation, we bring in a hygienist. I don't care if it's a water loss. I don't care if it's a fire. I don't care what it is. When there's that crossroads that happens, who's going to hold liability? And I'm not going to hold liability. I know what the standard says, and we're going to work to it. But if somebody else doesn't want me to clean that way, great. I'll bring in a hygienist to prove what needs to happen. It's a third party. Or the insurance company can bring in a hygienist, but I want a third party that doesn't work for the insurance company, that doesn't work for me, and they get to dictate what's going to clean that property appropriately to make it safe, pre-loss condition for the customer. And even then, the insurance company wants to argue about scope.
It's kind of the name of the game there for them.
They want to dictate how that scope happens constantly. And that's not their job, to be honest. Their job is to be a policy professional, right? Their job is to look at the policy, find out what coverages there are, and extend those coverages to a customer. And when they're not doing that and they're trying to act like a contractor, yet they don't hold any liability, I have reservations. And that's why I don't have any regrets on putting a public adjuster onto losses. I think the customer needs to be protected at that point. Sure. That's what public adjusters are for, to protect that customer. I can't protect him at that point.
Do you, I would say you more than, not more than, but in the same vein of some of my other clients, really work, when you go in and meet with a homeowner or a business owner, you really become their advocate, working with them through the insurance claim process. It sounds like it's something that you're extremely passionate about, and ultimately it really does help the bottom line too. It allows you guys to not only put the homeowner in the best position to have their home or their structure in the, safe for them and their family, but it also makes sure that, you're not leaving money on the table in terms of things that you need to do and you can charge for when it comes to that insurance claim, right? Do you think bringing in that third party, like a public adjuster or something like that, how has that impacted the average size of job for you?
So let me say this. Our bottom line actually gets impacted negatively.
Really? Okay.
I'll tell you why real quick. A lot of people think it's different. You just looked very surprised when I said that.
I did.
So do you know what happens on delays and timelines when you bring third-party vendor or third-party hygienists, or when you want to argue with an insurance company, what do? They instantly close up, don't talk to anybody, and they shut down. So our accounts receivable now goes out much, much longer. So your cash flow gets quite a burden by doing what we do, right? If I had my choice, I wouldn't do that, right? Just take care of the customer. We'll do our part to take care of the customer, and everyone's good.
Sure.
But that's not what happens. And so if I had my choice, I would never, there's no need if an insurance company was taking care of the customer like they're supposed to, there's no need to put them in front of a PA and delay things, right? Plus, our work's normally done or close to done by the time the PA gets involved. So our work's completed. It's not gonna. We don't do reconstruction. So we do mitigation, contents, textiles, and storage, and asbestos abatement. And so we don't get to see the difference in what a PA brings to the table on the reconstruction side. Our work's complete. And so
all you're doing is delaying the time frame in which you get paid on that job.
100%.
Okay.
Oh yeah. They've clamped down and they're not going to talk to people anymore. It becomes a very sad to watch, to be honest, because it puts a customer in such a bad position that they pin the customer against us, and the customer knows we're not doing what's wrong. We actually referred somebody to protect them.
Right.
Like if we were doing something wrong, would it be in my best interest to say, hey, sure, but hire somebody that can come at me?
No, it would not.
No. So we have to make sure that our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed, and make sure that our work is to standard. And otherwise, it's not going to go well for us. And so it's made us be very good at our game and our craft. And I'm never afraid to put a third party on those jobs, whether it be a hygienist to look at it, whether it be a PA, whether it be an attorney. And I'll be honest, we refer this reconstruction work out to other restoration companies all the time, which means we even have decent relationships with other restoration companies. So kind of weird.
I was going to ask you about that because I talked to a lot of franchisees, and some of them decide they just want to do mitigation work, just want to do contents. Some of them also decide, hey, I've got a background in, general contracting. I want to also do the rebuild work. You did not go down that path. And so you want to do, okay. Is that something that you're considering in the future?
Yeah. I'll never say never. The way that we built, so you brought it up earlier on our expansive growth as fast as we did it. And it's not this is not a secret. It's not a trade secret. I'll tell people how I did it. And I hope people do it because it'll make their business better if they actually do it. We put blinders on, right? So when we started, we said water losses are where we're going to go. We need to get really, really good at water losses, right? And so we put blinders on to fire. I worked on the fire department. We didn't do a fire the entire time that I was on the fire department. And for a couple of reasons. We had blinders on, so we wanted to get really, really good at water losses. But I also didn't want the conflict of interest. I didn't want people saying, oh, there's stock on it because he's a fireman. No, that's not going to happen, right? We did 0 fire cleaning jobs, 0 structured fires while I was on the fire department. I did not go after any structured fires until after I retired in 21. And then we went after water losses first. And for the first entire year, that's all we focused on was water and getting really good at doing water losses and setting up systems and processes for those water losses. And then once we were really good at that, we looked at, all right, what's the next revenue stream? Contents. We're stepping over all this content, right? So then we brought in the content side of things. All right, what's the next revenue stream after our systems and processes are set up for content? We're giving away all the textiles, right? All the soft goods. So revenue stream into our own building, we build out our textile division. And you start doing that. All right, what else are we giving away a lot of? Abatements. Now we're in the abatement world and have our own abatement teams going. What's next that we're giving away a tremendous amount? Here's the thing. Our trailing 12 right now is just over $12 million. So how much reconstruction work are we giving away?
2x, at least 2 to 3x on that.
So, I mean, we could be at the click of a finger. If we decided to build that out, we now go from a $12 million company to a 20, 30, $35 million company, depending on jobs. Right? Yeah. So it would be silly for us not to entertain it. Yet we want to do it in a way that we're not. I've seen so many people get into it, and it's what destroys their business.
It takes a higher level of skilled labor, and the margins, whether we like it or not, on reconstruction, never going to be what they are on mitigation.
Right. So I've seen that happen so much that I kind of took a back seat to it and just watched other people. And now I know who I can actually go to and learn from that has kind of perfected that craft and have the 20 to 25% margins at the end of the day. And I mean, they run a very, very tight ship when it comes to the reconstruction side. And so we have those guys in our one. There's actually probably 3 or 4 guys that run a very, very clean reconstruction, and they got really good numbers. So,
we kind of give us a little insight in terms of what's next for you. Let's talk about what's now. Because recently you sold a portion of the business to a private equity group, Traction. All right. So, everyone has an exit strategy. I mean, I do for my business. I'm sure you did when you started this business there. Were you approached by PE is dumping a lot of money into home services right now? Were you approached by more than one group, or were you approached by other folks that were interested in buying into your business?
Yeah. So I started early, working with JT from Exit Strategies 360. JT's a stud. Love the guy. I would do it again with him every time. I've never wavered from that. And if anybody's ever looking to sell in this space, the restoration space, that's his niche. So that's where I would put all my eggs in his basket for sure. With that being said, we came into this with the mindset of, hey, we're going to build a business to sell. So that's what it was for. I said, I'm going to build this business and I'm going to sell this business eventually. Don't know when. It just felt right. It felt like it was time. Did I go a little early? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, you never know. You know what I mean? But we did have quite a few people interested. We had independents interested. We had some couple different PE firms interested. And a couple different LOIs came in. Some good Zoom meetings with some of these people. It doesn't take long to figure out whether or not you want to be. I mean, you're going to be in bed with these people, whether you like it or not.
Well, that was going to be my next question. When you were considering these different groups that were looking to buy into the business, the fact that you wanted to remain active and the kind of owner-operator there, was it really top of mind that you wanted to not only get the best deal, but also find partners that you knew you were going to be comfortable working with the next 5-10 years as you look?
Well, it depended on how the deal was written. So if it was not somebody that I wanted to work with, then I didn't want a portion to remain with me. I just wanted to do a 3 or 6 month exit, right?
Was that a consideration for you? Just getting out of this whole thing?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I got plenty of other things I can go do.
I didn't say you're a young man. I'm sure you find some other business to start.
Heck, I feel like I could do anything, right? And so, I looked at it that way, and we ended up talking to one guy that just, he wasn't a fit, but he wanted me to stay on. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to work out. And so we ended up splitting up, and then Traction came along, and then after a few talks with them, cool guys. Like we hit it off pretty well, talked a lot. Actually talked back and forth on the phone even during the deal.
Because numbers changed during the acquisition process, right?
It did change, yeah. Went up during that process, and it was pretty interesting. So, yes, they did change. We got along great. I think we still have a very good relationship. Matter of fact, we text back and forth frequently. They're not here in Spokane. They're over on the west side of the state, and they visit every now and then. They call, they text, they say, "Hey, how's it going?" They see what's going on. Mm-hmm. I mean, they know what's going on by the numbers, but they're not in the day to day. And they have pushed me to hire an operations manager. It's the first time that I've hired an ops manager in Spokane. I have ops managers in Spokane and Tri-Cities, but there's nothing that happened. We opened the Tri-Cities last month, so it's 2 hours southwest of us. And so we have that going now, and we're about to close another deal here pretty quick for an M&A of a a territory that's nowhere near us.
So they're pushing you to hire an operations manager in Spokane so that you can focus on all of these new territories and growing the overall business.
Expansion, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So now they're looking for the expansion side of it. And I would imagine goals over the next 3 to 5 years is to continue to expand and get us to a point where we have a very large footprint as a single operator in the network. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up with, over the course of the next 10 years, I don't know. I mean, you could have 15 to 20 territories throughout the U.S.
That's incredible, man. Congratulations on all your success there.
No, I haven't got there yet, but I think it's happening.
So, in kind of wrapping up, one of the things that I find really funny about you, and we just had this conversation before we jumped on here, even though you had a wealth of experience doing carpet cleaning work, right, which is kind of a gateway drug, if you will, to restoration, you worked countless years as a member of the fire department there in Spokane Valley. It would probably entertain our audience to know exactly how many restoration jobs you've actually been boots on the ground for. Some would guess, well, first of all, how many total jobs do you think your R1 footprint has done over the last 6 years?
Probably 6,500, somewhere in there.
Incredible. How many of those jobs have you actually been on site for?
On site or actual doing the work?
No, actually doing the work. You're right. I should definitely separate the two.
And as an operations manager or a GM, like, you should be very knowledgeable in what's going on and actually on jobs very frequently. And I've done that throughout the last 6 years. But in the beginning, my story's kind of funny. I actually hired a guy day one when I looked to buy this thing. I had a fire in my garage, and another restoration company showed up, and I literally had equipment being shipped to me. So I owned the company, but I wasn't open yet. And I actually asked these two guys that were standing there. I tried poaching them from another company, and I just asked them questions about what they made, really.
Okay.
And one of the guys was an estimator, and back at the time he said, "Oh, I'm at $70,000." Another guy was a project manager. He said, "I'm at $50,000." I said, "Do you guys want a job?" Like, didn't know how it would go, and both of them were like, "No, I think we're good." And I told them what I had going on, and they said, "Well, we have a technician that works for us that he might be interested in starting up with you." And I said, "What's his name?" So they gave me his name and his phone number, and I texted him. And like 3 days later, he's at my house, and I offered the guy a job, and equipment's now on the ground.
Okay.
And he's looking at this equipment, and he knew I had a carpet cleaning company, and I had other vans, and I ended up hiring him. He's actually sitting in the office next door to me still right now, and he is our lead estimator. But I mean, I hired him right then and there, and him and I, within the next few weeks, started up. And to answer your question, after all that story,
I like how you were avoiding. Come on, give us the answer. How many jobs?
To answer that question, I did 3 restoration jobs because I understand the game, and doing the restoration job isn't where the business owner needs to be. And so I hired a second guy as fast as I could, and I removed myself from that and started growing the company within the first 3 weeks. Like it was get the company moving. Like the whole thing is to remove yourself from the van. You got to get out of the van. And so that's a hat you don't want to wear for very long. If you're wearing that hat, you're not growing your company. So 3 jobs, that's how many jobs I actually did.
That's some great insight, though, for all of the restoration companies out there. The guy that's day in, day out, he's answering the calls. He's the first person to show up to set up equipment and meet with homeowners. He's got to have a ceiling there, right, in terms of how he can grow his business, because he just doesn't have the time or the bandwidth to sit in an office, make good decisions, establish strategic relationships to actually grow the business. So
there's steps throughout growth where your bandwidth gets completely ripped apart constantly. And Traction saw that right away, right? Traction was the one that said, we don't want you injecting into these other things until we have this in place. And so they forced the issue on getting somebody to take a huge part of my plate. And so I'll still remain as the president, CEO. I'm still a GM over our locations. So I still talk to the operations managers, but now I'm not dealing with the day-to-day employees every single solitary day of the operation. And so, not to say that I can't walk out of my office right now, and we have 100 employees. I still know them all by name. I'll still give them a high five. I'll still tell them they're doing a great job if they're doing a great job, and I'll still tell them they need to pick it up if they're not.
Right.
But I know them all personally, and that's important too. But they don't answer to me anymore, and they have their boss, and if their boss isn't doing something, then they know where they can come. But that's important. It's important to know your bandwidth and push stuff off your plate to other people. And I got to tell you, one of the coolest things ever is to watch people go into positions that we have so much internal growth with those 100 employees that very rarely do go outside of our organization for new positions. Like our first big hire that we did was this ops manager that's not from the restoration world.
Okay.
He's from logistics, and kind of cool. I mean, it's he's exceptionally smart, very well spoken, direct with communication, but he understands operations and he also understands sales. And so those two things coming in here, he's not over our sales division. We have somebody else over our sales division, but he understands it and can question things very good.
Okay.
And so very interesting. But as far as bandwidth, yeah, you have to be able to understand when it's time to move to that next level and put somebody underneath you and watch people grow. Because as soon as you put somebody in there, they're going to be able to grow. And they may surprise you. 99% of the time, you're going to be surprised at what people are capable of if you take the reins off of them.
And if you coach and develop those people from within, you're not in a situation where far too many restoration companies are right now, where they just can't find, hire, or keep good talent because they're not
ever had that
opportunity to grow.
Never, I'll knock on wood. We've never had the problem that we haven't been able to find good employees and keep good employees. We have, I think, a very good culture. I mean, we've had benefits since we had 8 employees. Like health benefits since we had 8 employees. So, and to be honest, it rivaled the benefits I had at the fire department.
Oh wow, that's
good.
That's pretty good benefits.
So, matter of fact, here's a crazy story. We took our benefit package to the fire department and said, "This is what you need to look at because you guys are paying astronomical prices compared to what I was paying at R1." They switched over to our company. The fire department did.
That's awesome.
So kind of crazy, but I still have the same benefit package as all my employees. I'm not special in that sense. It's good benefits. So we offer a 401k as well with 3% non-matching. We just inject 3% into retirement for them, and they don't need to pay into that if they don't want to, but if they do want to, great. So,
well, it makes sense why you've had the success you have because of the culture that you've created. It sounds like you've got a great team there. It sounds like with the relationship with Traction and the ability to kind of focus more high level, sky's the limit for you guys. So
I think so. I have no intention of leaving. I only own 15% of the business now, and there's times where I'm like, man, I'm only making 15% of this, but it's not true. We're growing. We're growing and expanding, and like you said, sky's the limit. We'll see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if within the next 5 to 10 years, it's $50 to $100 million company.
And I'm looking forward to your growth, man. And just keep my agency along for the ride as we can
do out.
All right. Scott, I really appreciate you giving us so much time. To my audience, thank you guys for sticking around. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. We'll be back with more interviews, more insights, more entrepreneurs and professionals like my man Scott here, giving you guys some great feedback. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate your time.
You bet, Clinton. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe, share, and also leave us a 5-star review. We'll be back with more interviews and discussions with restoration industry leaders really soon. In the meantime, if you're a restoration company looking to add more high-value water jobs, you can reach me and my team at waterrestorationmarketing.net. Again, that's waterrestorationmarketing.net. I look forward to hearing from you soon.